Hello everyone, welcome to Steno 24/7. This is the Stephen Avery case, the state of Wisconsin versus Stephen Avery. This is video number 13. We left off with Mr. Kratz speaking, still in opening statement. Ready? Let's write. Now, this next picture is particularly important because it was taken before any processing begins. There's the burn area that we're talking about. That's the burn area that contained the obvious human remains. You will see and you will hear from the officers who were at the scene that this burn area from the first night was guarded by Mr. Avery's German Shepherd. I believe his name was Bear, but this particular German Shepherd, not of the friendly sort, did not allow law enforcement officers to get close to this burn area, did not allow any of the canine help that was out there to get close to that area. And anytime, law enforcement even got close to the burn area, Bear made sure that they were shooed away. But I think it's also important about this case when we talk about proximity. There isn't any question who exercises control over this burn area, and in the background, just see how close it is to that van that Teresa Halbach was asked to take a picture of. The next day, Wednesday, November 9th, was the first time that recovered bone fragments from that burn area are identified by an anthropologist. An anthropologist is a professional who looks at bones and can identify whether they are human or that they are non-human where they go. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But even though these fragments are small, even though they are burned almost beyond recognition on Wednesday, the 9th, they determined that those were, in fact, adult female remains found right behind the defendant's garage. All right, this is the first image that is not a photograph that I'm showing you. This is computer generated, and we're going to hear from a man who created these images. His name is Tim Austin. He works for the State Patrol, the state of Wisconsin, in scene reconstruction. And what Tim Austin will tell you is that he was out at the scene. And we'll talk about this a little bit later, but he was out at the scene and took over 4,100 measurements out at the scene. And after taking his own photographs, and after taking over 4,100 measurements, he was able to recreate some of these scenes for you, for the jury. And these are created for the jury so that you can see things that the naked eye can't see, so that you can see things that photographs can't show, so that you can see relationships between some evidence and fixed objects or other evidence that's found. And so, as you see this perspective, you will see that you are up, dozens of feet above the ground. And it's something, again, unless you are that tall, you are not going to be able to see this kind of location. But this particular computer-generated animation is important to embrace or for a jury to look at in the case because the burn area is clearly visible. How close it is to Mr. Avery's garage, how close it is to the trailer, how close it is to the other area, what's called the curtilage. That is the area that surrounds Mr. Avery's property. All becomes important. All right. So these are, and when something is not a picture, when it in fact was created through computer animation or computer generation, I will let you know that. One of the bones that was recovered was a long bone. And I'm showing you this for a reason in my opening statement so that you understand what we're looking at here. That we aren't just looking at some bone in abstract. We're not just looking at some DNA profile. It's Teresa Halbach's shin bone. All right. It's Karen Halbach's daughter's tibia. And attached to Teresa Halbach's tibia was some tissue. Now, despite Mr. Avery, the evidence will show that despite Mr. Avery's effort to completely obliterate all these bones by burning to incinerate these bones completely, this bone survived. This tissue that was on the bone survived, which allowed a DNA match, which allowed the state of Wisconsin analysts, guess who? Sherry Culhane, when she performed an analysis on that tissue, to match it with the blood found in the back of the SUV with a soda can that is found in the front of the SUV and with a standard. Now, the standard is also called an exemplar. You are going to hear those two statements, but Teresa Halbach, before the 31st of October, had a pap smear performed, a clerical swab that was performed, and thankfully for us, that was kept at Belen up in Green Bay. Well, Sherry, also Miss Culhane, also was able to develop a DNA profile from the pap smear. We know that's Teresa. And from that exemplar, from that example, matches the tissue on the leg bone, matches the blood, matches the soda can. We can say with 100% certainty that those human remains are those of Teresa Halbach. And we will stop right there. We will pick up on page 78 for the next video, marking 19.